Yo, what's up? This is Royce the 5'9", and right now I'm kicking it with my family, Nick, on Hard Knock TV. Peace. Not at all. I mean, when we met, he complimented me on a line that I said on stage. He was at the show selling his local Slim Shady EP, and he complimented me on a line that I said on stage, and we sat and kicked it for a second. We talked about doing some stuff, but I didn't know where it would lead. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't have any type of like foresight. You know, like this guy's gonna be huge. You know what I mean? Like, there was no talks of like Dr. Dre or nothing like that. We just two local guys trying to do what we trying to do with the raps. You know what I mean? I already knew who he was from the hip hop shop. I already knew exactly who he was. The fact that he heard the line that I said and it got his attention, and he was down to do some work, I was just happy, flattered. You know what I mean? So.
Do you remember the line?
Unfortunately, I do. I said, I'm iller than standing in front of a gorilla holding a banana. Terrible.
And he was impressed by that.
He was super impressed by that. I think, I can't remember what I set it up with, what the setup line was, but he was probably impressed because I'm pretty sure whatever I set it up with, I'm sure I matched every syllable perfect.
Right.
Iller than standing in front of a gorilla holding a banana. You know what I'm saying? Like, I probably did it in some type of rhythmic way or something. I probably did something that made it a little better than just the line itself. But the line itself is fucking terrible. You know what I mean? But I'm a baby. I was a baby. But but yeah, he liked that line. He liked that line a lot. So we ended up having like a lot of like phone conversations. Me and him ended up getting on the phone with Pharrell. You mentioned Pharrell earlier. Me and him ended up getting on the phone with Pharrell. There was this group from Ohio called The Clinic. My man Rob Walker, who managed Pharrell at the time, Keno was on the line. My man Rick Rhea was on the line, and we had like this battle.
On the phone?
On the phone.
Oh, crazy.
On the phone. And it was Pharrell was rapping, and he sounded exactly like Nas. I just remember, like, smooth kid sound exactly like Nas to me. He kept talking about a Benz wagon. He kept rapping about a Benz wagon. And it sounded like he was freestyling. And me and him was rapping, and then the dudes from The Clinic was rapping. But I remember when we was about to get off the phone, Pharrell was like, "Hey, yo, Eric." He was talking about my man Rick, who I did a production deal with later on after. He was like, "Yo, you got the Royce kid?" And he was like, "Yeah." He was like, make sure you get him a deal. Make sure you get him a deal." And I'll never forget that. And then when I first signed to Tommy Boy, they were like, the Neptunes were like some of the first ones I worked with besides Preem.
Dope.
Yeah.
What era was this? It was like around Nori, when they were working Nori? It was like, yeah.
Early 2000s, late 90s.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, I wish somebody would have recorded that. Like, what was it like to have you, P, I don't know the Clinic too well, but an M just in a phone cipher?
Everybody was going in, bro.
And y'all were just doing it just cuz, or what was the point of the cipher on the phone?
That's just how it used to be back then.
Yeah.
That's how it used to be. Like Rob Walker talking shit to Derek Jackson, talking shit to Rick. "Oh, I got my guy. Fuck that. We get him on the phone. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it used to be. Like, we used to be like, you remember when like they said those stories about Dame and them taking Jay to battle X, taking Jay to this neighborhood to battle X? That's how it used to be.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like same thing as me going to the hip hop shop to see how good I am.
Yep.
You know, I get around these dudes, you get around them and you see if you're good as you think you are. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. So
everybody sharpening their skills.
yeah.
I miss those days.
Good old days. Good old days.
Speaking of the good old days in a way, you have a track on Prime 2 called Era, where you talk about wishing you weren't stuck in a certain era. Can you elaborate on that, or what you meant by that?
Yeah. A lot of times, I look at a lot of things that's going on in this era. I look at a lot of things that went on in other eras. And I always think to myself, like, damn, I wonder how it would have been if I'd have came up in that era. Like right now, one era, and this is just after hearing my dad talk about it, Preem talk about what's the 70s, the early 80s. My dad talk about the 70s and 60s, and Preem talk about the 80s. And, you know, these dudes, like, people back then used to just make music all the drugs were like the best drugs. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody used rubbers, nobody used condoms. Condoms, we called those rubbers. We didn't use those. You know what I mean? Like, and I'd be thinking to myself, like, fuck, I am in the wrong era. You know what I'm saying? Like, these motherfuckers used to be able to do crack, and it was okay. Like, crack was cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, now you can't even do that. You know what I mean? Like, and this is like, they got all the drugs and shit that are fucking destroying everything now. Like, they got the purest form of it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm an addict, so I know I would have probably did some of that shit if I came up in that era before I stopped. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, I be thinking to myself, like, damn, man, I wish I could have fucked hoes raw and did some crack and lived to tell about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I already did the same thing with alcohol. What's the difference? You know what I'm saying? So I just be thinking to myself, like, damn, I'm in the wrong era. Or I wonder how I could have did if I could have been an activist back in the slavery days. Or if I could have, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just think of all the different things, the different ways you could have, like, just hit the genre, you know what I'm saying? Just hit the culture and just affected the culture or just impacted the culture in some type of way. If you could have just known what you knew now and go to a different era. That's basically the mind frame that I was in when I was thinking about making the song. And the reason why the word era came to mind was as soon as Preem started looping that noise, that do 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 do, it was kind of reminding me of Bees in the Trap, right? And then when he mixed it with the rocket in the pocket snare, whoosh, whoosh, it sounded to me like he was just mixing eras of music together, eras of hip hop together. And by the time he added that real futuristic, like that real futuristic piece that Ant-Man had on there, I felt like, all right, man, it sounded like he mixing eras. So that's where the whole concept came from.
I feel like we're in a stage now where we're kind of starting to bridge eras, where it felt like for a while there was kind of a disconnect. People weren't sampling because of the publishing issues, you know, labels are coming out. Now it seems like some more younger artists are starting to, you know, sample, which then is kind of helping a new generation kind of link to some of the stuff that we grew up on. How do you see the current stage in terms of eras coming together and bridging the gaps of different generations within hip hop?
I think it's getting there. I think it's still a little bit of a disconnect, honestly, man. There's still the youngins versus the older heads. You know what I mean? And it's largely due to this era right now, like this generation right now, is really strong, man. They're really strong. They're really like conscious of wanting to do their own thing. You know what I'm saying? And then like, they got this thing where they want to take credit for every single thing. They want to pull everything they can pull from every generation, but they want all the credit. They don't want to give no credit. They don't want to give props. And then you got like older generations that's very critical of them. Very critical of them. Always got something to say about them. Always coming down hard on them. So it's creating this big ass wall in between the two generations. And to me, that's still just sitting there. Now, don't get me wrong, you still got like waves. Like you got like when the kids went through a wave where they were wearing like the cam socks, the pink cam socks, and that was like a wave. Like I don't even think all of them were listening to Cam's music, but they go through waves where you feel like we bridge and shit a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, that's really to me just kids feeling like they're following something that's cool. You know what I'm saying? But they don't really know the way that Dipset impacted the culture and how important it is. Like they don't want to go do the homework because they're so busy just getting fucked up and just, you know what I'm saying, like just doing whatever. That's how I kind of feel about that. But I definitely think it's getting there. It's getting there. You know what I'm saying? And it's gonna get there whether they like it or not, because it's gonna always continue to evolve. It's gonna always continue to evolve. All you got to do as an artist is just try to do whatever you can to make sure you survive the evolution. That's the important thing.
I feel like your way of bridging the gap is you always have used your platform to highlight some of the younger cats doing. I mean, the era track you highlighted, Davies, which is one of the cats that I think is definitely holding down the lyrical torch. You got Boogie on this album. You have Cole on this album. You work with someone like Logic before. Like, you definitely have made it, it seems from the outside looking in, like you've made a point to be like, okay, these are some of the cats carrying that lyrical torch. I want to get in the studio with them and I want to kind of like bridge that gap. Is that something that just happened, or is that like something that you go out of your way to be like, all right, let me use, my platform to highlight the cats that I feel like are doing their thing?
I go out of my way. Just to let them know, man, how appreciated they are. You know what I mean? Like Cole needs to know how much I appreciate him. He needs to know that I can sleep well at night knowing that if I never can make another album again, that this hip hop shit is in good hands, and I didn't just, my whole career is not just in vain. You know what I mean? Like the kids aren't just gonna take it and just fucking ruin it to where it won't exist no more. Because contrary to popular belief, that can happen. Look what happened to rock and roll. It's real. You know what I'm saying? Like the whole genre can die if it's just swarmed with bullshit and bullshit only. We have to always have a balance. We have to take steps to make sure that it's a balance. And we have to stop being so afraid to give each other props. You know what I mean? Like the way it is right now, it's like if you give somebody some props, then you automatically a dick rider. If you don't give them the props and you criticize, then you're a hater. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like the lines are just blurry. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I try to always go out of my way, man, to just make sure that not even just the younger artists, but any artist that's pushing the culture forward positively in a dope ass way, they know that. They know that. You know what I mean? Like I don't agree with only praising an artist after he or she something happens to them. They no longer with us no more. Now all of a sudden they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. I don't agree with that.
Yep. Give them while they can enjoy it.
Yeah.
Today you actually praised Cole. You said, I think Young Legend or something.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to listen to the album he put out yesterday?
I haven't had a chance to hear it yet because it just came out today.
It came out last
and
night.
I've been on promo, and I don't want to listen to it in spurts. I want to be able to listen. I got it. The best believe I bought it, but I want to be able to listen to it in its entirety because I study Cole's albums. I study Kendrick's albums. You know what I'm saying? Like guys like that, I need to study them. You know what I mean? And I need to listen to it and figure out what I can learn from it and how I could get better from it because they're the young kings now. You know what I mean? So
that's dope. How did you and him link up on that track?
You know what? Me and Cole had been talking about doing some shit together for a long time. I reached out to him when I was with Cool and Dre down in Miami. I reached out to him about getting on another because Dre had an idea to get Cole on the song. So we sent it to him. He said, I don't know if this is the one, man. Basically he think maybe we should try to go a different direction. So we went months, maybe just sending ideas back and forth. Couldn't really find that right vibe. So when he came into Detroit on his tour, he came to my studio, and once we got in the same room, it clicked pretty easily. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I was gonna give him the studio. I thought he was just looking for a studio to work in. I was gonna give him the studio and leave, and he was just like, "Yo, let me hear some shit." And I started playing him shit, and then he started playing me beats, and it just went from there. We just clicked from there.
You start the album with the intro just talking about the blessing of just waking up in the day.
Yeah.
How does that just kind of set up your mind state going into recording what, to me, this album feels like? I mean, it feels like an autobiography. It feels like, I mean, you've been doing your thing for a minute in the game, but this feels like the first album where I really feel like I get to see like some of you, like your personal history and some of the stuff you went through. I mean, you've always had amazing stories and amazing rhymes, but this one I feel like there's a vulnerability and an honesty to it that, like, I love that. I felt like I saw it with Nas and Good Life. I saw it with Jay and 444, and I feel like I appreciate where hip hop is going, because I was wondering for a long time, how is hip hop going to grow? How's like my generation, now that we're dealing with kids and we're dealing with other things, like how do we grow? Speak a little bit about your mindset and why you chose to start the album with that intro.
Since I got sober, man, I wake up and I feel like that. Like I feel like I've rid myself of these nagging ass people that's taking me in the wrong direction. All they do is ask me for stuff. I just woke up this morning just feeling free and thankful. Free and thankful. I sleep well knowing that I have not done nothing wrong to nobody. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel free of all the bullshit, and I just feel like my mind is free, it's open, and I'm ready to record the best shit that I can possibly record because I'm free of distractions. I'm not thinking of nothing else. I'm not allowing myself to be distracted by a bunch of bullshit and being involved in a bunch of bullshit that's gonna take away from me being able to just contribute to the art form. You know,
Cole has a line on his album where he talks about heaven being a place on earth. But to me, when I hear you say that, like, it reminds me, you know, of just being in tune and letting go of that stuff to fully be able to have that peace.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's what, I mean, not to get super spiritual, but like, to me, that's what heaven is. Like, to be able to have that peace, to be able to wake up and just be like, you know, clear-minded and just be connected and be grateful. And that kind of is, you can live heaven or hell in your mind, depending, you know, where you go in life.
I agree.
And it feels like that's the spot where you're at now.
Definitely.
You talked about going sober. Speak a little bit about the decision to take that route. Like, I know some people who are debating that in my life and are struggling through that, whether it's seeking therapy because there's a stigma in therapy or that process. What was that like final leap? What was the final thing where you're like, this is time, like, this is what I'm gonna do?
I was sitting in the studio with Marshall one time, and we were having a conversation, just not even on that topic, and just out of nowhere he was like, you know, if you ever felt like you had a problem, you can call me, right? And I was like, I had a problem with what? He was like, with drinking. I was like, okay, I appreciate that. I'm like, no problem. And I was just like, fuck, man. Like, what did he mean by that? Like, is he trying to tell me that he thinks I have a problem? What is he saying? Like, I would love to know what he was saying because it just came out of nowhere. So it just kind of stuck with me for a while. It was a few things that my wife said too, that while we were going through the worst of the worst, it was a few things that she said to me at my drunkest of drunks, and that gave me a moment of clarity, and it made me remember those comments. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of these things just I carried with me throughout the day, and I went long periods of time knowing that I needed to stop. I even said it in raps. Years I went knowing eventually I'm gonna have to stop this shit. This is like no way. It's like I've been car accidents, I've been to jail, I've been to war. Everything bad that you can think that can come from this shit has already happened. So the only next step is for me to die or go to prison. One or the other. Nothing else. So one day I just woke up in the hotel room. And I had what I call a spiritual awakening. I mean, I've never felt so sure about something in my life. It was just this overwhelming feeling that just came over me that said, it's time to stop. It's time to stop right now. And I said to myself, I said, yo, man, like, if I don't act on this right now, I don't know if I'm gonna survive it. This is an opportunity for me right now. Don't try to like do it a different way or wait till you get home. Right now. So I called Marshall and I said, yo, bro, it's time. And I just broke down in tears. And I didn't even expect to get emotional. You know what I'm saying? I just broke down in tears, and I'm talking to him, I'm crying, I'm like, yo, bro, it's time for me to stop. And he like, Royce, listen, that's the realest shit you ever said to me. He said, listen, I want you to know something. He said, where you are right now, at this very moment, you are at the strongest that you've ever been, ever. He said, a lot of addicts, we take this feeling as weakness, admitting that you're powerless over something. You associate that with weakness because you're powerless. But really, you admitting that now you're at your strongest. Now you're at your strongest because it takes a strong person to admit that and realize that. And now you're in a position to start taking the necessary steps to get yourself better. You know what I mean? So he said, just come home. Come home, I got you. So I called my dad, I talked to my dad, I start calling my wife, I start calling everybody, all my loved ones, you know what I'm saying, letting them know that this is what I'm about to do. So when I got home, Marshall put me in this hospital because I'm fucking rich with no health insurance. That's some rapper shit. So he put me in this hospital, hooked me up with this doctor, and I stayed there for a couple of days just so they can monitor me, get some fluids in me, IVs and shit like that. And I slept. I got some great sleep, some of the best sleep I've gotten in a long time. And he linked me up with this therapist who's my therapist to this day. He's my sponsor to this day. And I have not had a drink since. That was almost 6 years ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You have a song on this album that reminds me of what you're talking about. Check in on the strong kid. I think it was
Your strong friend.
Check in on your strong friend.
Yeah.
And that line hit me hard because it's like, a lot of times it's the strong ones that are quiet that we just, because they're not talking about it, we just assume that they're not going through shit or that they, whatever. But can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the strong friend. You the strong friend. Marshall is the strong friend. You know, we're the ones that, you know, everybody comes to with their problems, all of their problems, and we're expected to be able to solve them, have all the answers, financially, make sure everybody is straight. And because it's been so long that we've been helping everybody else, that we've always been that shoulder to cry on and that shoulder to lean on. Nobody ever really takes a second to wonder if we need something or if we are going through anything or if it's anything that's bothering us that maybe we may not be strong enough to handle or deal with. And you look at people like Chester Bennington, DJ AM, you know what I'm saying? And you just look at these people, these strong people, you know, here today, gone tomorrow. It makes you really, really look at this shit. It makes you really look at the industry and what are we really dealing with here? What's really going on here? What are we a part of? You know? So I just decided to do a little something about it.
Yo, that song and that line just kind of hit me because it's like, it's crazy that for such a long time we haven't really addressed these kind of things. I'm glad it seems like recently people are unpacking mental health and you know, before it was all about being indestructible and untouchable and like that's what hip hop was at, and I feel like now we're starting to see more vulnerability and just kind of like come to terms with what that can mean. And I'm hoping that will open up some of the conversations so that people are like, oh shit, I'm not going through it alone. Because I think before that was the thing, everybody was like, well, I don't want to talk about it because all my friends look like they're having great lives. I look on Instagram, everybody's having a fucking jam. And then it's like, it's hard to have those conversations. So
that loneliness is the fucking worst. It is the worst. Feeling like you're going through some shit alone. You know, that's why music is so powerful. You know, you listen to some shit and then just like what Logic is doing. Like he's letting you know that you're not alone. You're not alone. There's other people going through this shit. And, you know, I'm going to talk about this shit just so you will know that you're not alone. And that's why music is so powerful, man.